We would like to now open to the participants. I don't know who's got the microphones because I'm not going to be able to go running up and down here.
I don't think I need a microphone unless it's necessary.
You need the microphone because we're recording everything. So
You have a good, diverse voice.
Thank you. My name is Amelia. I'm a member of the Johannesburg Bar, so that's why I can speak down with a bit of volume. I've been taking a few notes, and there are a lot of things that are very interesting for me. I happen to be on the Transformation Committee where I work, and one thing that was very interesting for me is that obviously a lot of advocates groups are trying to transform and to shift and to make sure that they reflect South African society. So on one stage, we were having a meeting and I had suggested that, well, you know, if we are going to have a lot of Muslim members in the group, then we need to make sure that at tea time, we have halal eats. And everyone looked at me like what I was suggesting was a completely foreign concept, that, well, no, why can't they just eat what we're eating? And it goes back to incorporating diversity as a way of life, and for us to think of it in every aspect, not just on our website, we have a whole bunch of different faces, but actually making sure that people feel welcome in a situation where they might not be a majority. I think what was very important in terms of what Adrian was saying is the proliferation of these stickers that are coming out everywhere. People do not feel valid, and so they need to enforce their validity. And for me, it's a situation of making sure that everyone understands that your validity does not detract from my validity. It's not a limited commodity. It's not something that has a limit. Everyone is valid. And so in having to emphasize it and make sure that it's been expressed, it's an indication of where people's mentality is at, that they don't feel valid in the society, and that is something that needs to be addressed. There was an article, and I don't remember the author of the article, and this is my closing point, but I found it very interesting that he stated that despite South Africa having a numerical majority, the numerical majority is the cultural minority. And it still takes me a while to understand this, and it's a really, really fundamental point, because it goes again back to the point of validity and making sure that everyone feels that they have a space to express themselves in South Africa. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Abel Pinar from Northwest University Potchefstroom campus. Since this morning, I've listened to the semantic dance around diversity and inclusion and equality. Coming from a very marginalized community, the Bushman community, it is indeed a semantic dance when you listen to the different speeches of previous politicians, and especially I'm thinking back of President Thabo Mbeki's speech on I owe myself to what. When we look at civil society, the marginalized still remain the marginalized. Of the 11 languages, the Bushman descendants have not been acknowledged in starting to developing to equality. We use the Khoi language as the code of arms, and that's where it ends. And those are the things that we are looking at, and the central message is that we need to move towards citizenship. But if your basic citizenship has been denied, how do you move towards citizenship? And those are the realities of context and praxis that you talked about now, that we are looking at. And in civil society, unless we start openly dialoguing about what is the diversity we are talking about, and how can we use a certain community's basis concepts for diversity, but that same community is not acknowledged in the dominant society, civil society of South Africa. And it makes people from marginalized or vulnerable groups feel cheated. How dare you? And are we not practicing what the apartheid system previously was practicing? It's just a different flavor. So those are the questions that we ask ourselves in where have we moved, where do we come from, and how far did we come? And using the Khoi community or the Bushman descendants as a theme of this conference, or to describe diversity, it's an insult to that community at this stage. And those are the issues that we really need to talk about.
Okay, thank you. Enjoyed that those things we come to talk us about how far have we come, how far to go, and understand that there is two dimensions about diversity. That is distance, and there is, for me, personal diversity and community diversity. So that is a big mistake. Understand about leaders who see diversity of the community like something they must privilege, that the diversity of a person was always negliged. So always understand problems of the community inside the NDP, National Development Plan, problem of to eat, problem of to everything in the political problems, that politics, leader politics, give importance to that problem. The first thing is to invest to form a man, to look how we can have a kind of peoples first, to look to have a big community where people enjoy to be together. Yesterday, I'm reading something about one article about Desmond Tutu in Wikipedia. Himself, he said that color said everything. My enemies give me opportunity to see my future because they want to stop my present. Understand that himself, he understand always his life is like a lesson for another people's. So before to look for a community of diversity, must look for a man who understand that diversity. So peoples around, among us, does it understand which kind of diversity? Firstly, the diversity is your life. And when you grow, when you become teen, until when you'll be adults, that is a diversity, a variation. You can say that I don't like white or black peoples, but I like flowers of Congo, I like forests of Congo. That is, it doesn't make any sense. You must first understand you cannot like that flowers and don't refuse to like people who are living there. Firstly, is the mind. I forget his name. He said that we have the head, we have the heart, and the hand. 3H. That's problems. The mind of. After that, the intention and action. People have bad minds, and when you make people together, even if you want they be unit, they will be not unit. The problem is to have a mind. If inside someone there is a good mind, you will have a community. Community doesn't say to call people together, come together. They can come together, but inside their heart, they said, after that I don't like. If you come in township, I'll beat you. That is a problem, because people come together for the meeting, for the match, and after that, people are afraid to go to the township. Those people are afraid to go when there are white people. The problem is first to look for a man, a kind of man, and after that we will look for a kind of community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please feel free to speak. You have a few minutes, so we would rather hear from as many people as possible.
I think one of the aspects that several speakers touched on is the language of the state. If we look at many of the pronouncements that's made, then those are not pronouncements that foster, diversity. If we look at the pronouncements and how media deals with issues, and then media also racializes many of these issues, and it doesn't, assist us in, moving forward. What I also hear is that, I mean, not what I hear, what I know is that there are many laws, there are many documents written around diversity. I like the preamble example, and perhaps next time at a conference, before we start the conference, we should say this is where we moving from, so that people don't have, questions about what is it that we're talking about when we talk about diversity. I was amazed at the number of legislation that is there, and therefore, and I realize that's why, for instance, business is now in compliance, because they needed legislation just out of the heart. They would not do it themselves. I just want to share you something that happened. One lady from UCT at a workshop, she said she's colorblind. She doesn't see color, but that was because she was blind. But then she said, for instance, at UCT, in this aspect about how people take on and have to change within, the different cultures, she said the fact that she's blind, makes it actually no challenge for her because all of the students sound the same. If you catch that, you see the slang that they speak at a certain in a certain way at UCT, So as a person that is blind, you don't hear that, And that was very interesting, and especially I think it was raised by the gentleman from Wits, no, not from Wits, from UJ, the aspect of how people have to change to form part of a particular situation, work situation, or whatever that they must go into. Thank you.
I think if there are no other, okay, there's one person there, just so that you don't come down the stairs and go back up again.
I'm a pastor, so I want to say when apartheid was in existence, we used to pray a whole night for apartheid to come down. So maybe as people of faith, we must learn to pray for this to happen. The second thing I want to say, in the Bible there's a lot of pictures about diversity. And I know there's people of other faith, but if all of us think carefully, before 1994, the church spoke powerfully against apartheid. And if you were a minister, if you didn't speak against apartheid, they would ask you why. But today, the church seems to be cooling down, and people have faith. We're not saying anything about the corruption, and especially about the diversity. Let me end off by saying, not long ago I was going to preach at the NG Kerk, it's an Afrikaans church. So I sat there, and the whole congregation was Afrikaners, and all the people came in and they were looking at me, and I think they were saying, "Wat gaan die koelie doen vandag?" And the minister then introduced me, and people at the back of the church started walking. But when I took the preekstoel and I said, "Ons gaan uit Lucas 15 lees," all came back. So I'm just saying the church, people of faith, we got a role to play. And the quicker we use Sunday mornings and our meetings in the week, we must speak out about diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can ask our four panelists to just give little concluding remarks so that we've tied it up. So would you like to start, Professor Botha?
Yeah, my remark is simply a repetition of the sort of topic that I've created for myself, which is celebrating diversity as a new way of being and knowing.
I think the point about majority versus minority is very important, and it's one which got me into a bit of trouble last year after I wrote an open letter to AfriForum about why Afrikaners shouldn't think of themselves as minorities the whole time and victims, but are still the also financial majority, right? If you look at the latest figures again in terms of wealth creation that's come out. I really want us to think about what a lot more, and it's something I think about is young people. I'm very concerned about the young people going back into that really ethnic language identification. And I wonder if it's because we, and I say we, didn't offer them something else. What does the Rainbow Nation mean to someone of 16 years old? Maybe nothing. And we should revisit that and then talk about that and have discussions and bring them in and listen to them much more than we have. Thank you.
Yeah, I think from my side, I would want to remind you the words of the former President Thabo Mbeki in 1998 when he said that the problem, however, does not lie in the fact of diversity of our race population. No race, no shade, no color, no language, no religion in our society is a problem. So I think here Thabo Mbeki was just raising the issues of diverse population lies around culture, religion, and language. And I think he was very clear, even in terms of diversity is not all about minority rights or indigenous people, but it deals with the core value of human beings. As you know, that we will only have one race, as Mangaliso Sobukwe said, it's only the human race that we know. If you talk of non-racialism, you only multiply racism.
I am listening to this morning session and now having the honor to share a platform with the other speakers. I want to say that it's both and this is one of the concepts that I was taught by Julian, that I think every comment in this room is relevant and need to be included. And maybe as civil society, we need to set up a relevant agenda in a very inclusive manner that address the young people and privileged to be working with young students, but even starting before that, and earlier speakers spoke about school children as well, but setting a new agenda for ourselves, and then also working with that agenda on a personal level, an interpersonal level, an institutional level, and a cultural level.